What people don't realize, we talk about Ethereum having a lot of liquidity, DeFi, and what have you. Bitcoin is a sleeping giant. It uses UTXO, and it has tons of liquidity, but that liquidity is not moving across because it's store of value, so people just buy Bitcoin and hold it. What we will see more is different layer 2s, DeFi protocols, wallets being connected to the Bitcoin ecosystem, and that liquidity will start flowing, right? Now, if Cardano projects are the first ones to make first mover advantage and enable that Bitcoin liquidity to flow through, guess where that liquidity goes, right?
What's up, Ada Nation? Welcome to Dapp Central, chilling here at Consensus with Amar Singh, representative here from EMURGO. Amar, we meet again. How are you?
I'm very good, and always better to meet you.
Man, it's a pleasure, and I'm excited. We've had some off-air conversation, and I want to get this on air for the Cardano community. There's a couple of exciting things that you and the EMURGO team have been working on, but there's also been some achievements that I want to talk a little bit more about. So I'm happy to be able to get a little bit of your time here. But before we dive into that, how's Consensus so far, man?
So far, so good. It's good to come to this part of the world. As you know, we at EMURGO, we are based in Singapore. So good to see the enthusiasm here. This year is specifically better because A, bull market, B, the political sentiment is changing a bit with the Ethereum ETF and what have you. So good to be here, good to meet familiar faces and so on. Yeah.
Solid. Yeah, the attendance here has been pretty impressive. I didn't realize yesterday was only press day, and then today we've got like everybody here. So obviously a much bigger crowd. Okay, let's dive into Cardano, EMURGO, and everything else that's going on. Now, for people that are seeing and hearing you for the first time, can you give us a little bit about yourself and then how you're contributing to EMURGO's vision?
Absolutely. So my name is Amar. For the folks who know, for the folks who don't know, I'm at EMURGO. I'm in charge of global business development. So we have very recently formed a business development team at EMURGO, probably one of the first of its kind in Cardano ecosystem, to go and hunt for those business development partnerships, opportunity to make Cardano more relevant, to make sure Cardano becomes interoperable, to make sure Cardano has those partnerships which move a needle. Because at the end of the day, we want to make this ecosystem sustainable, and that's the end goal.
So you mentioned a couple of keywords there, interoperability, one of those. We'll come back to that later.
Sure.
But let's start off with some of the recent announcements dealing with EMURGO. The first one was the announcement with Huawei, right? So they're a global tech manufacturer or just a global tech company, right? Within the Asian region, which of course EMURGO has a big stake in. So for me, it was a huge announcement. I've released some content touching on that. But can you, number one, recap the partnership? And the number two, talk about where you see this going moving forward.
Sure. Thanks for touching on that, right? So when we say partnerships, when we say interoperability, I just want to touch on different dynamics, right? So interoperability is not only within Web3, it's with Web2 as well. There are tons of technological companies that have done a lot of heavy lifting in terms of creating technological infrastructure, right? So when it comes to technology, blockchain is just one technology, but blockchain by itself cannot work. It needs other technologies like cloud, mainframe computers, databases, center, and all technologies have to work together, right? So even our own validator nodes, they have to be hosted on some kind of cloud. They're not hosted nowhere, right? So when we talk about clouds, the cloud providers are, or the famous ones are AWS, Google Cloud, Huawei, Alibaba, and what have you. We want to make sure that Cardano is truly decentralized. If 90% of Cardano nodes are on one cloud provider, guess what? If they turn off, our blockchain dies. So one of the vision was that slowly but surely, we're not married to any one provider. We want to partner with Huawei, but same with AWS, with Google, with Alibaba, everyone, right? Now, that's just the tip of iceberg. So decentralization in terms of node is one part of it. Second part is Cardano projects get the ability to get funding from these technological companies. So a lot of people don't know, but a couple of Cardano projects, including one named DDM, are already now inducted into a Huawei startup program where they'll get funding from Huawei. So Cardano projects can get funding from these tech companies. Second is Cardano solutions now have the ability to put their solution on Huawei marketplace. In future, there will be other Web2 marketplaces. What it does, it gives eyeballs to Cardano solutions amongst all the different Web2 enterprises, because then again, these firms have done all the heavy lifting, right? They have those connections, they have those marketplaces where we didn't have access to before. Now we do, right? So people see Huawei as a big Asian giant, but Huawei is huge in Africa. Our partnership was with Huawei Singapore, not China. So just want to clarify that part, because Huawei Singapore owns its own data centers in Singapore and what have you. So don't see it just as Huawei, but see it as building bridges between different Web2 companies. Today it's Huawei, tomorrow AWS, day after maybe Google, Apple, what have you, right? I'm not married to anyone, but I want to work with everyone. That's the ideology behind this, yeah?
That's a very dangerous lifestyle to live there, Amar. If you're not married to anyone, you want to be with everyone. No, on a serious note, thank you. And I really appreciate the clarification when it comes to China, because that was actually one of the most common comments that I saw about my video talking about the potential implications with data and privacy with China. So again, thanks for the clarification there. Now,
I would probably touch upon that. Thanks for bringing this, right? Because when we partner, we don't look at they're Chinese, they're Americans, they're Mongolians, they're Indians, what have you. We just look at somebody who has done a good job in their country, right? So if we exclude all these providers, we're excluding 1.4 billion population of the world which are using these providers, right? So how do we call ourselves truly democratized blockchain? We cannot, right? So the whole point is of democracy is that I might have my own opinion, but I'm okay to listen to others' opinion and take that with a pinch of salt and what have you, right? So as much as I again repeat myself, I'm not married to American provider, I'm not married to Chinese provider, I'm not married to Indian providers, Vietnamese providers, European providers, what have you. But I want to work with all of them, and that's when I can call myself truly globally democratized blockchain, right? So that's the point I want to hit home with everyone.
Yeah, that's true. Again, doors being open to work with multiple providers. Now, I'm looking across here and I see Google Startup Village, right? So I'm wondering if EMURGO will be speaking with them. If you guys already haven't, I actually just talked with the Cerberus team, and they do risk ratings protocol, but they just got a grant of, I believe, $200,000 of cloud-based infrastructure, which is huge. So I think that could be a potential partner. Again, I would love to hear your thoughts.
So we are having multiple discussions, right? I don't want to get ahead of myself and drop the names. All I can say is stay tuned. There's a lot more coming up in different areas, not only Web2 companies, but Web3, big companies. Again, I keep repeating myself that we have done an awesome job when it comes to research, having a solid blockchain, right? But now is the time to do tremendous job in terms of commercial adoption, because we can build the best technology, but if nobody's using it, what's the point, right? So here we open up doors, we build the bridges, pardon pun, we build the bridges to make sure that interoperability happens with Web3 players, Web3 protocols, Web2 players. There are dozens of discussions which are happening, but slowly we'll see names, right? One thing that we can do better is you'll not only see the announcement. So earlier what we used to do is we used to just announce that, hey, we partner with Huawei or GSR or EOS, but now we'll make sure that we have a video coming out with an announcement which explains how can Cardano projects take benefit of those announcements and vice versa, what it brings to Cardano, right? And probably I'll be taking help of some loyal and dedicated members like Fareed and Dapp Central to spread the message. So just stay tuned is what I'll say. But all the names you dropped, I'll just say that there have been talks with them as well. I'll not say more. Yeah.
Very, very exciting to hear. And thank you for even the consideration in terms of breaking that news. I'd be more than happy to work with you and the entire crew in order to make sure that the facts get spread out the right way. Because again, I think when there is a lack of direction, people can, they can guess, they can assume. And a lot of times, if you don't give them the clarity, that can actually become something that takes away from the announcement. So it's really good to see that you guys are thinking about how to improve on the delivery. Now, you just mentioned GSR. That's going to be a perfect segue into the next piece. Liquidity has been a talking point for the longest in Cardano. What is the partnership with GSR aiming to do? For anybody who isn't aware, I believe they're a market maker. But then also, how does this benefit Cardano?
So, again, I want everybody to understand that whenever we do anything, right, our mindset has been what is coming on Cardano, what's going on. But what we are thinking right now, especially in the business development side, is 2, 3, 4 years ahead, right? So when we talk about interoperability or we talk about institutions, institutions will never come if there's not deeper liquidity. Also, this cycle is different, right? So previous cycle, of course, we did very well because there were 3, 4, 5, 10 layer ones. This cycle, you have 40, 50 layer ones coming out, equal number of layer twos coming around. Everybody has their own protocols, exchanges, tons of decentralized and centralized exchanges, right? How do you make sure that your liquidity is everywhere? How do you make sure Cardano projects have access to these things? Because when I talk about Cardano projects, again, I'm not only talking about current landscape, I'm talking about future projects that might work with institutions, and they'll say, hey, are you connected to any market makers that will help create that? We're also talking about stable coins. So we're talking about stable coins, but what about market making? Who's making sure that they're listed on all exchanges? Who is making sure that there's a high yield product backed? So, I mean, these are kind of bridges that we have to build with time. So coming back to GSR, currently it will support not only Cardano projects. Again, I don't want to drop name, but couple of projects just reached out to us just last night, actually. I'll not drop names. Yeah. These are big projects, including Cardano projects. They wanted to be connected to GSR so that they can help out. GSR will put funding into building Cardano ecosystem. It will connect us to VCs because remember, it's very important to get capital flows in Cardano from outside of Cardano because till the time we are relying only on Catalyst or 1 or 2 early entities, it's not sustainable. It will run out in 5 or 10 years. So we have to start working on getting capital from outside, and players like GSR will help us out in that. And then there'll be an education day because we have done an awesome job making our community believe in what Cardano is. But when it comes to outside of Cardano, the awareness is a little bit on the lower side. So we don't have to go from 0 to 100 and do everything ourselves. There are players in the market that are deeply connected to all other chains, institution players. So we are piggybacking on them to spread the message. And they will basically host events for us where Cardano projects can go. They can pitch to the outside world. So then again, I just want to give a bigger picture on what is happening, what not. The purpose of these announcements is not to be very superficial, but just to share the vision that somebody is doing work for Cardano to be more important, relevant, and popular outside of Cardano. I understand that on day one, this might not be very obvious inside Cardano, but slowly it will play out and we'll see how it works. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the work has been becoming more visible. Of course, again, you mentioned last year, bear market vibes, sentiment very low. But I've been seeing a lot more positive commentary surrounding EMURGO and the Cardano Foundation. There's been constant conversations about different plans, different conversations that are occurring behind closed doors that things are finally beginning to come to light. So it's very reassuring to hear that. Now, one recurring thing that I continue to hear, at least when I'm listening to you, is exposure. So we talked about with GSR, them working with Cardano-based projects, but then also helping to get the ecosystem out to people that aren't currently in it. You also talked about with Huawei, giving exposure to people that are using their cloud, right, with their marketplace to, again, the broader community that may not be out there. So it's, again, really good because I think that's what Cardano needs right now is exposure. The tech is solid. The teams building here are solid. And the community inside knows that, but people outside don't seem to be getting the picture. So this is going to take me to the third topic, which is interoperability. So yesterday, I saw an article about Maestro and the EMURGO team building a potential partnership or technically announcing a partnership. Now, in addition to that, I released a video not too long ago highlighting the fact that Maestro is now also branching out as one of the first infrastructure providers on other UTXO native blockchains, so Bitcoin and Dogecoin. Could you talk about why EMURGO's backing Maestro and then what this potentially could mean for a strong partnership inside and outside of Cardano?
Absolutely. So it's a very broad question. I'll try to be very brief. So we strongly believe that all roads lead to interoperability, right? What do we mean by that? Eventually, if the Web3 world and blockchain world has to come to life, all blockchains need to talk to all blockchains. The ones which are not talking to others, they'll either become private blockchain, or it will be very hard for big institutional use cases to have 10 different wallets for 10 different chains or 10 different exchanges to interact with 10 different chains and what have you, right? In that spirit, our projects need to become interoperable as well, right? And also, we need to target the right kind of liquidity. What people don't realize, we talk about Ethereum having a lot of liquidity, DeFi, and what have you. Bitcoin is a sleeping giant. It uses UTXO. And it has tons of liquidity, but that liquidity is not moving across because it's store of value, so people just buy Bitcoin and hold it. What we will see more is different layer 2s, DeFi protocols, wallets being connected to the Bitcoin ecosystem, and that liquidity will start flowing, right? Now, if Cardano projects are the first ones to make first mover advantage and enable that Bitcoin liquidity to flow through, guess where that liquidity goes, right? So again, whatever I'm talking is not day one, it will not happen overnight, but we have to start working towards it to have it and so on, right? But Maestro is one example. We had vested in trust. I think the team has done just amazing job when it comes to building the infrastructure around Cardano. But this is the moment that we let our projects fly, get that liquidity from other protocols, make it interoperable and so on. Not only infrastructure, right? When I talk infrastructure, there's so many verticals. Our wallets have to go out as well, our exchanges, and vice versa, bring the traffic in and out. And interoperability means connecting with the other chains, our protocols working, our infrastructure workings. Imagine the kind of ease it will give to our ecosystem, our projects, our developers, and what have you. So this is a vision which will happen probably next 3, 4, 5 years, right? But this is just a start. So Maestro is one start. Talking a bit on interoperability, this is a word which is thrown around very loosely. It's not that easy for us because we are a non-EVM chain, UTXO model. But what is working in our favor is there's a lot more UTXO chain coming in this cycle, right? So Bitcoin, we all know, but there's Sui. There are a few others that are coming to market and that has proven or made UTXO a bit more sexy again. We should, so trend is your best friend, right? We should not go against the flow. We should work with that to make sure we add value to Cardano. So in terms of interoperability, and this is my personal opinion, we have to build those bridges. We have to have different wallets coming here. Our wallet should go there. We need to have our exchanges working with different models. We need to work with different layer 1s. We need to have different layer 2s. We need to have our own ZK rollups, privacy rollups going to other chain, which Midnight is trying to do very nicely, so on and so forth, right? So that's how it all comes together. But charity begins at home. So first we have to start, and then we have to give signal to market that we are open, because right now signal to market is that Cardano is a closed loop, we cannot talk, and so on and so forth. So just sharing that sentiment here.
So for me personally, and I'm going to kind of work backwards here with Sui and you talking about other UTXO networks, I think it's a matter of one blockchain really breaking the narrative around UTXO. And I think when people open their eyes, Cardano will be the clear choice. Now, again, as you mentioned, if we can build the tooling and at least get the conversation started, when the narrative changes, because I think it will, Cardano will be at the forefront saying, hey, we've already got a lot of this tooling ready. Here you guys go in terms of interoperability between other UTXO blockchains. To make a long story short for me, I think about this two ways. There's liquidity outside from VCs, right? But then there's also liquidity from other networks that exist.
Exactly.
So I think tapping into both is very critical.
100%.
With a potential collaboration with the Bitcoin community where DeFi is finally kicking off. You know, I was just talking about, I was talking to Marvin yesterday about runes. You know, he was teaching me a little bit about that. So I need to dig into more of that, you know, but to hear that there's GSR working with VCs, and then there's also potential other opportunities within Bitcoin. It's almost like you guys are tackling liquidity from all the potential entry points. So it's very reassuring to hear. Now, I want to talk to you about one last topic, and I want to let you go because I want you to enjoy the event here as well, Amar.
Sure.
But that's going to be stablecoins. So when we talk about liquidity, stablecoins has been a key talking point. There's been talks about USDA, there's been talks about USDT, Paxos, USDC. I mean, you name it, there's been talks. Obviously, of course, USDM, and they're doing an amazing job. I believe they've just hit over, it might be $250,000, or it might be even $500,000. I got to go back and double check. But I say all that to say, can you give us any updates about stablecoin progress for Cardano?
Yeah, so that's a bit tricky one, right? All I can say is stay tuned. I cannot drop names, but there are conversations which have taken months to come to fruition. and not there at the literal last step. What helped is US political dynamics shift a little bit. Kudos to projects that have done a lot of heavy lifting, including USDM. I'm a big fan. So we should support our internal projects, but at the same time, the same philosophy that if we want to bring liquidity from other chains, if you want to have confidence of other players, other chains, institutions, whatnot, we cannot be married to any one coin, right? So I see a future for Cardano when there'll be multiple coins, bringing multiple liquidities, but having multiple different purposes, right? So again, I'm shooting from the hip, so don't quote me, but just throwing examples. Let's say USDM becomes a flag in the sand for regulated 19 US states that it has, or maybe future, right? Let's say a different coin, USDV, whatever we call it, right? It becomes a yield-bearing tokens, so that institution want to hold it just to get yield on it. So Ethena and other stable coins have done it on different chains. Imagine the amount of liquidity it brings to Cardano, right? Then you might have a stable coin which is backed by insurance premium or real-world assets. So that will be the landscape of future stable coins, because right now we only think of stable coin as a fiat-backed stable coin, one-to-one peg, but the landscape is changing very fast. So we are attacking in multiple fronts. All I can say is that you will not see just one coming. Very soon you might have 2-3 different announcements, 2-3 different ones coming up. But it's not very easy, right? When people think of stablecoin, just bringing the stablecoin won't solve the problem. Stablecoin needs to have volume, which needs to have DeFi, we need to have high yield products, we need to tie into something else. Because we can easily bring a big stablecoin. If they don't see volumes, they'll drop off Cardano in 6 months. We don't want that. That's a really, really bad marketing. So having said that, all I can say is stay tuned. There's a lot of good stuff coming on Cardano. Again, I want everybody to be mindful that these discussions started very recently. It takes time to wrap them up, close them, especially if they're big ones. So I know where we sit with stablecoin sentiment. I'm more desperate than most of you folks are, because I want to get this over the line, because tons of stuff that we are doing, it will not go anywhere if the stablecoin doesn't come. So all I can say is lots of stuff is happening. It's coming. I don't want to drop names now, but maybe in a few weeks' time, maybe I'll be on your channel and dropping the names and saying that, yeah?
I mean, it goes without saying, like I said, Amar, you're more than welcome back on. So I appreciate you talking about the stablecoin landscape. Again, I think a lot of people are waiting with bated breaths, for lack of a better term, to see how does this progress and how does this impact Cardano. So with that said, any last thoughts or closing thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for having me, right? So I want to emphasize, like, we don't pretend to know everything, right? But somebody has to start somewhere. We are trying our best to hustle, to make sure that we are the ones going out there talking. We are the ones building the first BD team within Cardano, and so on. And we are doing tons of partnership talks. And we are very aware that even if we close a lot of partnership, not every partnership will reach end goal. But that's fine, because we need to have some kind of room or breathing space as community, as Cardano, to still keep hustling, still keep trying, right? If we keep beating down every announcement that comes out, if we don't become the amplifying channel, which I think every community should be, we are missing a trick here, right? So if you see at other blockchains, if there's a big announcement coming out, the community gets excited, they then retweet the message and everything else that, hey, look at Cardano, now they're doing this and that. So that's a help that I would need from community, that we all have to work together. EMURGO alone cannot do it. Cardano Foundation cannot. IOHA cannot. Interset cannot. Cardano projects alone, they cannot also. Community alone cannot. We all have to support each other. We have to start somewhere. We have to hustle. Will we get everything right? Probably not. But we are trying our best. So that's what I'll like to say to everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very wise words. Obviously, we have to come together. Cardano, one of the biggest communities. I'm super thankful for them. When you rally the troops, they really show up. And I think we saw that at the recent Blockchain Life Awards, where we all came together, voted, and we're able to secure that Best Layer 1 award. So I think, again, I'm going to do my piece here. Hopefully the viewers and listeners will do their piece in terms of sharing the good news, spreading it out there, getting it out there so other people can see Cardano does have X, Y, and Z. But that'll do it here for today's video here, Amar.
I'll add one more thing, and I'm sorry for it.
Go for it. I'm more than happy.
I wanted to open the door to anybody at Cardano community and projects. If you see we are missing a trick, right? Reach out to me personally or anybody in BD team at EMURGO. Tell me, because I want to make sure 1 + 1 becomes 11. So everybody has their own network. Everybody's talking to something. We don't pretend to talk to everyone. So if you're talking to somebody and if you feel there's a really good value in that connection, reach out to me. Now, when I say reach out to me, again, I don't want to open floodgates where everybody comes and asks 5 million, 10 million, 20 million. I'm asking about networks, synergies, partnerships, or somebody's expertise, what kind of connections we can build. Or if you see we are missing a trick, let's strategize together. Let's have a whiteboard session. So I just want to open doors about that to everyone, yeah?
The transparency and the humbleness is very, very respectable. Not many people tell that to their community. Hey, if you see something that we're not doing, reach out to us, right? So again, I think it's really good to hear that. Number one, you guys are obviously making a lot of progress, but the number two, you guys are open to hearing from the community. You know, you guys aren't saying we're in control, we got this, we know everything. No, we want to hear from the community. So thank you again here, Amar. I really, really do appreciate it. And I look forward to covering all the future breaking news when it comes to EMURGO. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be leaving all the links to everything EMURGO down below, but then also to a potential contact, which of course I'll get from Amar here. I'll leave that down below if you have any suggestions you'd like to make to the team. That will do it here for today's video. Again, Amar, I look forward to catching up with you in Dubai and in Vegas for Rare Evo. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you for that. Thank you, everyone.